और स्टूडेंट टाइम में ऑर्गेनाइजेशन बनाई। उसके बाद जब सर्विस में गया तो हिमाचल प्रदेश ड्यूल कास्ट ड्यूल ट्राइब गवर्नमेंट एम्प्लॉयज वेलफेयर एसोसिएशन का निर्माण किया और उसमें कई साल तक काम करता रहा। उसके बाद जब मैंने पोस्ट ग्रेजुएशन कर लिया तो किसानों को, जो भूमिहीन लोग थे जिले के, उनको ऑर्गेनाइज किया और 6-7 हजार लोगों का जुलूस भी यहाँ शहर में निकाला था। तो ये काम किया और अब 2007 से आर्थिक सामाजिक समानता के लिए जन अभियान जो हमारा चला हुआ है उसके साथ जुड़े हैं। और परसों ही हमारी बहुत बड़ी एक पब्लिक मीटिंग थी वहाँ धर्मशाला में, जहाँ असेंबली कर रही है, आपको सूचित किया होगा विश्व प्रेमी जी ने। तो हम काम कर रहे हैं और आप लोगों की एडवाइस जो है वो हमारे काफी काम आ रही है। मैं इसके लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद करता हूँ, खासतौर पर मैया साहब का। जय भीम।
जय भीम सर।
जय भीम सर।
Sir, Vinod ji, please start.
Jai Bhim to all of you. As you know that we are organizing Samvidhan Samaalochan lecture series to celebrate 75 years of Indian Constitution, and this is the third lecture. Title of today's lecture is Political Representation as Constitutional Right. Speaker of today's lecture is Dr. Sekhar Vundru, and Dr. Subhajit Naskar is going to moderate. This lecture is being organized by Center for Dalit Studies, Indian Staff Dalit Studies, Center for Dalit Rights, National Alliance for Social Justice, Dalit Coalition, and People's Campaign for Socio-Economic Equity. I will like to introduce to the speaker of this today's lecture. Dr. Sekhar Vundru belongs to Indian Administrative Service of 1990 batch. He is in Haryana cadre and brings in an experience of 34 years of experience to service to the nation. He holds a PhD in Constitutional Law from National Law School, University of India, Bangalore. Dr. Sekhar Vundru at senior level in the position of Principal Secretary and Additional Chief Secretary to the Government of Haryana, served as MD, SSIIDC, Haryana, and in the Departments of Women and Child Development, Sainik and Ardsainik Welfare, Civil Aviation, Foreign Cooperation and Labour. Dr. Sekhar Vundru is the author of Ambedkar, Gandhi and Patel, The Making of India's Electoral System, which was published by Bloomsbury in 2017, which has been translated into Marathi, Hindi and Telugu also. He has written extensively on Ambedkar, caste, untouchability, Dalit history, literature in all major newspapers and national magazines. He has delivered several Ambedkar Memorial lectures and keynote addresses at various Indian and foreign universities and acclaimed institutes. He is the recipient of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar Ratan Award 2016 from Delhi government. He also received India International Excellence Award in 2019 in UAE and Dr. Ambedkar Prabuddha Bharat Peace Prize in Nagpur in 2019. He is currently Additional Chief Secretary in Animal Husbandry and Dairy and Agriculture and Farmer Welfare Department, Government of Haryana. Dr. Subhajit Naskar is Assistant Professor at Department of International Relations, Jadavpur University. He has done his higher education from University of Hyderabad and also in JNU. And his articles appear in The Hindu, Indian Express, The Wire, The Queen, and also in EPW. He critiques upper caste hegemony in West Bengal, Bhadralok politeness, critical caste studies, and of course, socio-political autocratization in South Asia. So welcome both the speakers and the moderator. Over to you, Subhajit.
Sorry, sir. This another organization joined us, Dalit Bahujan Front.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Lakshmi, so you want to say before Subhajit takes over?
No. Satish will
okay.
welcome me. Thank you. Satish.
Thank you, Vinod Bhai and Lakshmi sir. I think this is great day to that we are discussing on 75th year of our constitutional rights. I think that today session we have like this very esteemed speaker right now that Vinod ji has already explained. Additional Chief Secretary Vundru Sekhar and that Subhajit ji and Lakshmaya Saab, Anand Saab, Dheer Saab, राम जी, राम कुमार जी, विश्वप्रेमी, खोटे जी और बाकी मेरे साथियों, आप सभी का बहुत बहुत हार्दिक अभिनंदन है और हार्दिक स्वागत है आज की इस लेक्चर थर्ड सीरीज में. Now I would like request to Vundru Sekhar sir to speak about your thoughts. Over to you, Vundru Sekhar sir.
मैंने सोचा मॉडरेटर साहब पहले बोलेंगे.
Yeah. I will briefly.
Subhajit, please.
Yeah.
Start.
Can you hear me, sir? With the voice is clear?
No,
I
it's
hope.
very clear. It's very clear. Please.
Very clear. Okay. Yeah, I'll just make this and then. Okay, so I think this is an enormous task to begin with to moderate this session, especially when the speaker is our own guiding light, Dr. Sekhar Vundru sir. And of course, before I start, let me begin by thanking Laxmaya sir, Satish ji, and of course the speaker of this evening, Dr. Sekhar Vundru. Vundru sir needs basically no introduction. As you all know, he's quite a familiar name when it comes to discussing not only that in his bureaucratic circles, but of course he is a very well-known name now in academia also. So I think we are holding this series of discussion that I was discussing with Laxmaya sir in a time when we probably need to hold this discussion quite seriously and quite consistently when we are almost touching 75 years of from the day of the adopting the Indian Constitution. So, in fact, if you look at the way right now, even in fact, this evening when we are discussing the Constitution of India, are going to discuss and the idea of representation, democracy, and so on. I think we all are aware what is happening right now in the country in and around Baba Sahib Ambedkar. So, in fact, this whole discourse of Dr. Ambedkar's contribution has gained an immense popularity and mainstream discussion right now in this country after that heated exchange and debates that happened in the winter session of the parliament. So today's discussion is actually about the political representation that is inculcated in the Indian Constitution. There is actually a lot to discuss that, and I can't imagine a better person than Sekhar sir discussing this and enlightening all of us. But before that, I'm sure that many of us are not much aware of that how this entire idea of political representation sort of unfolded in fact not only in India but in the Indian political discourse, and how that has then got a mainstream kind of space in the Indian Constitution. So it's been a long, and Star would be touching upon all of that. But I was just in this afternoon, I was reading Grenville Austin's book, The Indian Constitution, the Cornerstone of a Nation. And the book, which is a very, very prominent book on Indian Constitution, Grenville Austin starts this book with a very important anecdote, and that I probably think can sort of help us start this discussion, and which is that Indian Constitution is the only constitution in the world which has met the social aspirations of the people in the Indian society, and which has been it is a constitution which the people of India has given to themselves by them directly, because the Constituent Assembly is an assembly which wrote the Constitution of India is through the elected members, and there was all sorts of members. There were community representations, there were religious representations, there were representations of the regions and so on. So, but today's discussion about the political representation goes quite far, and I'm sure that our informed audience knows this. That how political representation, basically ensuring the political representation was a huge sort of challenge before before this nation. But of course, none except Dr. Ambedkar, not only, but in this case, he's as the leader of the depressed classes. Those are the scheduled castes of India today. He ensured this. He negotiated from an early days a deal which would basically ensure not only social dignity but social dignity through the political dignity, and thereby through the political representation. And I'm very consciously not touching upon there because that is what our entire topic is. But before that, let me also tell you that uh, mm, today uh, there is an important aspect that has been kind of confused across the board about that how this entire how there was a huge challenge uh, uh, during this very start of the constitution writing process. And Dr. Ambedkar, how Dr. Ambedkar would enter into the Constituent Assembly. And it was a big challenge because Dr. Ambedkar then, all the political parties, they literally shut their doors on Dr. Ambedkar so that Dr. Ambedkar does not enter the Constituent Assembly. And it was a great leader from the undivided Bengal, Jogendranath Mandal, popularly known as Mahapran. He is the one who then who was also the leader of Dr. Ambedkar's own Scheduled Caste Federation. He was the Bengal chief of Scheduled Caste Federation. There he then told Dr. Ambedkar that we would from Bengal send you to the Constituent Assembly. And then Dr. Ambedkar, announced his candidature from Bengal, undivided Bengal, and with 7 votes and seven, this should be underlined, seven all the scheduled caste Dalit members across the parties, they all voted him, despite the Muslim League's huge presence there. They never voted for Dr. Ambedkar, but all the seven uh, scheduled caste members of the undivided Bengal's assembly, they all voted Dr. Ambedkar to and ensured that he enters the Constituent Assembly. And by entering into the Constituent Assembly, he ensures the social rights, the political rights, the economic rights of the former untouchables, or what is popularly called as depressed classes of the time. So I think I would not take much time because this series of lectures that we are holding is basically to generate uh, not only the various insights into the working of the constitutions, but the various challenges that we faced and various aspects that the Constitution of India basically unfolded before us. Because constitutional awareness is something that the Indian nation, which is graded and which is very hierarchical on the basis of Brahminical social order, or what we call popularly as fourfold Varna system, where the Brahmins, the Kshatriyas, the Vaishyas, and Shudras, that kind of very inhuman system that basically has prevailed or probably unleashed in Indian society so much that the constitutional awareness is long overshadowed. And as a result of which, you can see that some people call that Dr. Ambedkar has become fashion, some deities and gods could be better than taking Dr. Ambedkar's name. So that kind of discussion probably, or that kind of mentalities inform us that how there is a huge lack of awareness about the writing of the Indian Constitution, especially even after 75 years uh, adopting the draft from the Constituent Assembly. So still the Indian society largely believes that it is probably the gods, it is probably the other elements that is much more important to discuss in India rather than Indian Constitution. But very, very unfortunately, that is what is happening. In fact, very senior leaders, the political leaders, they themselves do not have the constitutional awareness, as I call it. And therefore, there is a huge lack of morality in Indian society, India's political spectrum across, and also in Indian society. So with these words, we will continue this discussion. I can promise, since our two stalwarts, Sekhar sir and Laxmanya sir, both are present here, and we are organizing this lecture series on the from the platform, or let's say on the auspices of Center for Dalit Studies, Indian Institute of Dalit Studies, Center for Dalit Rights, National Alliance for Social Justice, Dalit Coalition, People's Campaign for Socio-Economic Equity. So all of them together, we are holding this discussion, and this lecture series would continue for quite some time as part of the celebration of 75 years of Indian Constitution. So with these words, I would like to hand over to Sekhar sir, and I'm really, really thankful to sir. Sir has been a guiding light and guiding spirit for all of us, who keeps on sort of, I can tell about myself, who keeps on telling us to read and write, of course, to spread anti-caste awareness, and also sort of to bring anti-caste scholarship into the mainstream and so on. So with these words, I request Sir Sekhar sir to deliver this lecture on political representation as constitutional right.
Thank you, Dr. Subhajit, for your very beautiful introduction, and Jai Bhim to all. Thank you for all those who have joined today, and all the organizations who have got together to pull across a very interesting feat, that is to have a series of lectures, 75 lectures in 70 on the 75 years of the Constitution, which is a tall task. But thank you, Vinod and Satish and Mallepalli Lakshmaya.
सर एक रिक्वेस्ट थी मेरी सर
सर।
मैं राम कुमार, प्लीज, हमें लगता है जितने लोग हैं मैक्सिमम लोग हिंदी समझते हैं, और अंग्रेजी समझने में थोड़ी ज्यादा बुद्धि लगानी पड़ती है, थोड़ा हिंदी में बोले ज्यादा ठीक रहेगा।
मैं मिक्स कर दूंगा जी।
जी 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 ठीक ठीक
मिक्स करना पड़ेगा।
जी 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 जी
क्योंकि ये रिकॉर्डिंग हो रहा है, फिर रिकॉर्डिंग से इसकी टेक्स्ट बनेगी, ऐसा हमने प्लान किए थे, तो मैं मिक्स कर दूंगा, कोई इश्यू नहीं। थैंक यू। जो इनफैक्ट हिंदी में भी आजकल मुझे बड़ा आसान हो जाता है। आजकल मेरा नौकरी हरियाणा के फार्मर के साथ डील करना था, तो उनसे तो भाषा वही है। थैंक यू सो मच। I'll space this discussion into 3 parts. I would like to look at initially how the very aspect of the representation of certain groups of people was very much important for their emancipation, because the tool of political representation initially was to uplift those particular communities who were oppressed and by the society due to various reasons. So ideas with which the entire idea of representation came in. So that's how we had the representation of so-called minorities in the pre-independence era, when the British were dealing with the changes in Indian constitution to include the locals to be a part of the administration of India. So that is how minorities, means Muslims, Sikhs, Indian Christians, Europeans, minorities came in as a part. Initially, minorities had political representation. Then comes Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in 1919. He brings in the argument in 1919 January, but he doesn't succeed till 1932. Almost 13 years of struggle, and that too with a government, an alien government, which is a British government, which was ready to listen to. It is not like an Indian government composed of various castes where it would have been a complete different scenario. It was, for him, it was easier to argue before a British government than before any other formation. So even then it took him 13 years to tell the government of the day that please make provisions for political representation of untouchables. So by the time there was already an idea of Muslims, Christians having political representation as a minority group. So the entire idea of political representation is solely to ensure that those people who are a minority, those people who are oppressed, those people who are backward, quote unquote, can have representation so that their community can be uplifted. This was the basic core idea. Now, when we go towards the formation of the political representation, by 1935 Act, we had the political representation for Muslims, Christians, Indian Christians, Europeans, scheduled castes, women, and several interest groups. There were reservations in seats for chambers of commerce. There were reservation seats in earlier for groups who were backward. There was no definition of a backward, but there were certain. Even Marathas had a reservation in the 1937 provincial elections, state assembly elections. So all sorts of interest groups, we thought that they should be represented. Indian chambers of commerce also wanted a representation because they have their issues to be brought before the government. So the wider idea of political representation, a brilliant model you will see in 1935 Act, on the basis of which 1937 election took place. So we had two elections. I'm not going into Pune Pact and the model. I'm only talking about the concept of representation. So women also had representation in 1935 Act and the 1937 election. So two elections took place, 37 and 46. From the 46 elections, you had people coming into the Constituent Assembly. It was like Rajya Sabha, MLAs electing and so on. So here is a wider idea of representation. Now, when we go forward, if you look at the Pune Pact, the representation for scheduled castes was only initially for 20 years. So that means there's a time limit. They were looking at that within so many years, these people who are going into the representative bodies, legislatures and parliament, should be able to work so much they will uplift these people. This was the idea. So after 1946 election, the same team which sat and in the Constituent Assembly, and Baba Saheb Ambedkar was the leader who took forward the idea of the overall constitution. Now I would like to say a very important point, that political representation is the cornerstone of our Indian constitution. There are no other constitutions in larger democracies where it would ensure that people like scheduled tribes, scheduled castes, and now of course backward castes in the panchayats, women will have representation. तो मैं ये कहना चाहता हूं कि ये जो मूल स्तंभ है हमारे संविधान के, जो बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने 1950 में हमारे सामने रख के दिया, उसकी जो मूल स्तंभ ये है पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन. जो दलितों को, जो आदिवासियों को, जो विमेन को, जो बैकवर्ड्स के लिए जो कॉन्सेप्ट आज के दिन हम तो देख रहे हैं, वो मूल स्तंभ एक तरीके से बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने उस कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन में ऐसे बना के रखा है, ऐसे बना के रखे हैं कि फंडामेंटल राइट्स, हमारे जो मौलिक अधिकार हमारे जो संविधान में कितने इंपॉर्टेंट है, राइट टू स्पीक, राइट टू मूवमेंट, राइट टू फ्रीडम ऑफ मूवमेंट, इनके बराबरी की इंपॉर्टेंस हमारा पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन, ये ऐसा हमारे संविधान बनी. इस संविधान के इस स्टेज तक बनाने के लाने के लिए बाबा साहब केवल और केवल बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर अकेले इसके लिए लीडर बन के ये बना है. तो मैं इसमें एक छोटी सी कहानी बताना चाहता हूं कि सरदार पटेल ने एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंट असेंबली के चलते दौरान एक मीटिंग बुलाया गांधी के असैसिनेशन के बाद. बोला जी ये सारा रिजर्वेशन खत्म करो, मुसलमान की खत्म करो, क्रिश्चियन की खत्म करो, यूरोपियन की खत्म करो, शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट की खत्म करो, शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स सबको खत्म करो. तो उसमें बाबा साहब ने बहुत बड़े बवाल मचाया. उन्होंने कहा मैं आप हो जाने और आपके संविधान सभा जाने, मैं तो जा रहा हूं. उन्होंने 3-4 दिन गए नहीं. फिर वापस मुड़ के इन्होंने एक फॉर्मूला बनाया, चलो जी आपको शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स, शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट को हम 10 साल के लिए दे देते. वो एक किस्म का एक ऐसा बवाल मचाया सरदार पटेल ने, जो शेड्यूल्ड कास्ट और शेड्यूल्ड ट्राइब्स के खिलाफ. सरदार पटेल की मुद्दा ये थी कि भाई इतने रिजर्वेशन लेके देश का क्या हो, क्योंकि उस समय में देश का स्थिति अलग थी. देश वो एक साइड से पाकिस्तान बन रही थी, एक साइड से दंगे हो रहे थे, क्योंकि देश की स्थिति अलग, हर एक व्यक्ति का सोच अलग. बट उस टाइम में जो आज के दिन जो विमेन रिजर्वेशन ले रहे हैं, वो केवल बाबा साहब के वजह से. नाउ आई विल स्विच टू इंग्लिश. Now, once the 1950, when we made the constitution and we had reserved seats for scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, Baba Sahib opened a window. Baba Sahib opened a window, Dr. Ambedkar opened a window where he could ensure a representation. See, representation in jobs was very clear. Representation in education was very clear. Political representation was also very clear. After 1950, within 32 years, 32 साल के अंदर हमने दोबारा ये जो रिजर्वेशन की जो पूरा मामला को खोल के रख दिया हमने. पंचायत and municipalities. We made an amendment in 1992 for the panchayats. In the constitution, a chapter was included. Municipalities were included. And what we do? We said there will be reserved seats for scheduled castes, for scheduled tribes, and more importantly, women. This is because of the vision of Dr. Ambedkar, who gave the vision, the right to political representation. Political representation is a right. ये हमारा हक है. संविधान में जो SC, ST, women, backward के जो representation है, ये हमारे संविधानिक हक है. So he gave a right to representation because he fought for the original political representation in 1919. He got it in 1935. He ensured 37-46 elections. 1950 elections also, it is because of Dr. Ambedkar that we had reservation for SC/STs. And then that vision came in 1992 under the Rajiv Gandhi government of the Congress party. There you have another window opened, that is women reservation. That is another big revolution that has happened in the representation part of India. So suddenly you have and they said, okay, not only women representation, there will be percentage of sarpanch post reserved for SC/ST women, percentage of Jila Parishad chairperson SC/ST women, and within the SC/STs 30%, 33% women. This is the next step. So when the 1919 के 100 साल पहले 1919 Dr. B.R. Ambedkar's idea of political representation, and what is the model of the political representation? Population percentage. It is very clearly on the percentage of the population. So that idea of 1919 comes ahead and we have women reservation. Now, just for fast forward it to a few years back, in the parliament and assembly, we will have reservation for women. That is that vision of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Dr. B.R. Ambedkar was bringing up a model of the entire, because when we see the Constituent Assembly proceedings and when we see the way Constituent Assembly was going ahead, he added one more thing. He fought for one more thing, that was right to vote. But right to vote was not allowed to be fundamental right by Sardar Patel again. सरदार पटेल ने हमें वोट डालने की जो हक है ना, वो संवैधानिक नहीं दिया, फंडामेंटल राइट नहीं दिया, लीगल राइट दिया, केवल कानूनी हक है, आपको संवैधानिक हक नहीं है जो राइट टू वोट। आज के दिन भी फिर भी बाबा साहब ने क्या किया, हर व्यक्ति को, चाहे वो भीख मांगने वाला हो, चाहे वो गरीब है, वो सड़क पे सोता हो, वो कहीं भी अमीर हो, राजा हो, हर व्यक्ति को एक्सेप्ट फॉर अ मैडमैन, पागल को छोड़ के सबको हम वोट हक देने की बात बाबा साहब ने लड़ाई लड़ी है। आखिरी 4-5 दिनों में तय हुआ कि वो राइट टू वोट देना, वो भी राइट यूनिवर्सल अडल्ट फ्रैंचाइज, सबको वोट देने की जो हक पे भी सरदार पटेल ने अड़े हो। सरदार पटेल के अलग कारण थे, उनके ऊपर दबाव थी, जो राजा महाराजा इंडियन यूनियन में आने थे, ज्वाइन करने थे, उनकी ऑब्जेक्शन थी कि भाई हर बंदा के हम वोट भीख मांगना पड़ेगा, जो हमारा रियासत में जो गरीब सड़क छाप आदमी जो उसके भी हमें वोट मांगने जाने पड़ेगा। उनकी दिमाग खराब थी राजा महाराजाओं का, अभी भी खराब है। तो उन लोगों ने प्रेशर डाला सरदार पटेल के ऊपर। सरदार पटेल भी अलग प्रेशर में थे, उन्होंने मना कर दिया, नहीं हम सबको वोट हक नहीं देंगे। तो जवाहरलाल नेहरू और डॉक्टर B.R. अम्बेडकर ये दोनों अड़ गए, नहीं जी, वोट हक चाहे संवैधानिक हक ना दे, बट हम राइट टू वोट सबको देना पड़ेगा। ये सबसे बड़ी रेवोल्यूशन है इंडिया में। संविधान में जो रेवोल्यूशन है, एक रेवोल्यूशन है। उस टाइम तक ना अमेरिका में औरतों को वोट देने के लिए इतने लड़ाई लड़ना पड़ा, ब्रिटिश में यूके में लड़ना पड़ा, और उस टाइम तक अफ्रीकन अमेरिकन अश्वेत जाति जो लोग थे अमेरिका, उनको तब तक वोट हक थी नहीं। जिस दिन बाबा साहब ने अब सब लोगों के लिए वोट हक दिए थे, हमारे हिमाचल के भाई यहाँ बैठे हुए हैं, सबसे पहली पोलिंग हिमाचल में हुई थी 1950-51। इतना बढ़िया, एक इतना महत्वपूर्ण काम बाबा साहब ने किया। उसके बाद आप जब देखने को आगे मिलता है हमारा जो पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन है, उसमें देन आई विल take you forward to 1992. As a district collector, as IAS, I remember SC woman Sarpanch coming to collector and saying ki sir, we want this in our village. SC woman block panchayat president, SC woman Jila Parishad chairperson, and otherwise women Jila Parishad chairperson. It is again in 1992, another revolution took place. Now we will have to wait for more revolution. Now comes the another aspect of representation, because all these groups, they want a place in decision making processes, because they want a mere representation of that community will make it visible that the community is progressing. Second, they will fight for their rights, for the upliftment of not only their community but the entire region. Because representation is a concept that we have every area in democracy will have a representative. Then every state will have X number of representatives. So the overall representation is to ensure equitable distribution of resources and overall progress. It is not that one region will grow faster and some regions will go. That is the entire idea of the concept of representation, but political representation for communities. Now, when we go forward, we will see the idea of backward classes coming into municipalities and panchayats. Now, here comes the entire twist. The twist in the representation of backward caste in the panchayat and municipalities had come into a problem. Because we do not know the statistics of backward classes numbers in individual states. So when this thing happened over a period of time, around 2020, the Supreme Court, and even before that, Supreme Court gave a very clear-cut steps how to go about it. Okay, they said, okay, first you create a commission. Then look at how is the representation. Then you formulate the kind of how much representation should be there. And then you go ahead and reserve the wards. But even today, the backward classes reservation is not very clearly that has come out. Supreme Court has given one more direction, that overall reservation, even in political representation in municipalities and panchayats, should not cross 50 for SC, ST, BC. The same idea of Mandal judgment, they brought it here. Now, here is a difference, that in the assembly for MLA and in the parliament for MP, today we have only SC, ST representation. That too, every 10 years we extend. So, is the political representation today a constitutional right? Till the time the period comes in, till the time the 10-year extension comes in, it is a constitutional right. But still it is hanging in fire whether it will be extended or not. So as of now, it's a constitutional right. As of now, women reservation in panchayats and municipalities is a constitutional right. Backward classes, there is no clarity. That is why there are some political parties who say that there should be a caste census to ensure that what are the numbers of the backward caste. So that primarily this entire issue rises not because of reservation in jobs or reservation in education. It is again because of their representation in municipalities and panchayats, where if you know the backward class numbers, then you can go ahead and ensure their representation. Now, as recently, we also know that the parliament has passed a law that women reservation would come in to the assemblies and the parliament. It is based on a census data because all the representation has to be based on a census data. Till now, there is no other data available to push in the representation. That is why there was a demand that at least there should be OBC enumeration in the census. But there is, of course, don't have clarity. So there, the entire operation of census becomes a rallying point, whether or not backward caste will have reservation or not. Now let us take it forward. In the future, eventually, one day, scheduled castes have come in, scheduled tribes have come in, women have come in. There is all likelihood that backward classes, once enumerated, if at all they are enumerated, will also claim and they will come into the assembly and the parliament, which will actually fulfill a great idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, that all such communities who need representation, who want to raise their voice, will come into the assembly and the parliament. Why is that has to be done? Because a progress of a nation will have to take all regions, all languages, all communities, and all those people who have been oppressed by the society together to take them together. That is why women reservation also becomes very, very important. In fact, in Haryana, the state government has the power under the panchayat and municipality constitutional provision to increase the women reservation. So what Haryana did, it made 50% reservation for sarpanches in Haryana. So 50% of the sarpanches in Haryana are women. Now then, after they have done that, suddenly Haryana patriarchy people suddenly realized, Hare, what about women contest the other seats also? So they put a rule, women cannot contest the other seats. Very funny. So in fact, they restricted women also, not beyond 50%. Of course, it was challenged in the High Court. But if you look at the progress of the very idea of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar of 1919 ka, today, in states like a lot of states have actually gone into 50% reservation for women in panchayats. In fact, that thing comes into municipalities also. So that is a progress we have achieved. The idea of political representation by Ambedkar, which has become today the constitutional right of the women also. Now, we should welcome Dr. Santosh Raut from Harvard. He has just joined us. And I think I'll stop here because the progress is irreversible. Whatever I am saying is, whatever the entire idea of representation is irreversible. People will be there, people will claim representation, and our country, which has been oppressing certain communities, will come together and progress together as a country. This is my point. Thank you so much. Subhajit ji, over to you.
Okay, there is so many things that you have flagged, sir. But I was just wondering, sir, that I mean, we have been discussing this for quite some time, and there is a whole manuscript written by Sahib Kansiram, which is popularly named as Chamcha Age, that to play a devil's advocate, sir, to what you are saying, to understand the flip side of the story, that that the political reservation has contributed a lot to the political inclusion, and thereby the way it has also contributed to the idea of social justice, which is a bedrock for a democracy. But if we look back to this, so many of these castes supremacists, the Prakash and others, they keep on asking, what have you achieved? You have only nurtured so many of these stooges that Sahib Kasiram popularly calls them as chamcha age. And so many people, those have not read that book, it's a must-read book, but what he's calling as Chamcha Yug is not merely that the political representatives from the reserved constituencies are Chamchas, but that how Chamcha Yug started post that Pune Pact, signing of that Pune Pact. So what I was thinking of asking you that how to get out of this mess that probably Baba Sahib, I don't know whether he has imagined that we will come to this or will not come to this. How do you see this, sir? And what is your take on this? That whether these political representations through the reserved constituencies are really helping us in political inclusion, because we have recently seen that subclassification has happened, which is against the constitutional ethos of the scheduled caste reservation, which can only be done by the Parliament of India, but it has happened through the Supreme Court of India. But we have not seen much of the political outrage, especially the elected members, elected politicians have not much outrage. So where are we heading with this representation, sir?
Thank you, Subhajit. You have taken the flip side of this entire concept, that whether the representatives are representing enough. Basically, you are asking this question. I think we should reserve that topic for an entirely a different talk. Maybe you can speak on it, or we'll all discuss on this. जो मुद्दा सुभाजीत जी ने उठाया है, वो ये कहते हैं चलिए रिप्रेजेंटेशन तो हो गया, रिजर्व्ड सीट तो हो गया, फिर जो रिजर्व्ड सीट में जो व्यक्ति आ रहा है, क्या वो अपने समाज के लिए काम कर रहे हैं, नहीं कर रहे हैं? तो वो ये एक मुद्दा तो है, बट प्राइमरीली हमें ये बात देखना पड़ेगी, क्या ये जो रिप्रेजेंटेशन जिस तरीके से दिया हुआ हमें, वो रिप्रेजेंटेशन सबसे पहले होना जरूरी है। दूसरी बात, जो बुद्धिजीवी है समाज के, उन बुद्धिजीवियों को ऊपर भी, जो पढ़े लिखे लोगों को ऊपर भी एक दायित्व है कि वो जाके ये जो पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स के साथ बात करें और उनको समझाए, बताएं, क्योंकि एक कम्युनिटी का प्रेशर भी उन लोगों को ऊपर होना चाहिए। हर एक चीज की एक हद होती है कि जो व्यक्ति पॉलिटिकल पार्टी द्वारा नॉमिनेट होता है, पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के प्रोग्राम से इलेक्ट होता है, चाहे रिजर्व कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी हो ना हो, वो व्यक्ति अपना जो लॉयल्टी है अपना पार्टी को भी दिखाता है। सो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज भी जिस तरीके से बने हैं, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज को भी चैलेंज करने के काम आज के दिन वो करना पड़ेगा। मैंने मेरा जो निजी जो डेली में देखता हूँ एज एन ऑफिसर, मैं मंत्री लोगों को पकड़ के बोल देता हूँ कि भाई आपने तो ये नहीं कहा, ये नहीं कहा, आपने बैकलॉग के बारे में बात कीजिए, आप इसके बारे में बात कीजिए। वो सुनते हैं, बट वो अपने कुछ दायरे के अंदर रह के वो बातें उठाते हैं। वो हमें बताते भी हैं कि हाँ वो मैंने यहाँ बात किया, वहां बात किया। बट आज के दिन हमने एक बात देखी कि जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज है, पर से पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज की प्रोग्राम एक हो सकती है, वो पार्टी जो पावर में आते हैं उनके प्रोग्राम अलग हो जाते हैं। तो इन चीजों में बहुत ही डेमोक्रेसी में एक बड़ा डिफरेंस देखने को मिला। हमने कई सरकारें देखे हैं कि जो कई डिसीजन ऐसे लेते हुए शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल ट्राइब्स, बैकवर्ड कास्ट के खिलाफ ही लेते हुए, चाहे वो अपना पार्टी प्रोग्राम में इनके पक्ष के बोलते हुए। तो ये एंटायर पॉलिटिकल रिगमरोल है, पॉलिटिक्स जैसे काम करते हैं, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज जैसे बिहेव करते हैं। ये मुद्दे भी है, वाइडर है, बट मैं ये चाहता हूँ ऑर्गेनाइजर से कि इस मुद्दे पे क्या हमारा पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव जो चुन के आते हैं, क्या हमें रिप्रेजेंट करते हैं नहीं, इसके लिए क्या समाधान है, हम कैसे इसको बात कर सकते हैं। मेरे माइंड में भी कभी कभी की आइडिया है, जो फ्यूचर लीडर्स हैं, फ्यूचर लीडर जो आ सकते हैं, क्योंकि अभी बनेंगे, क्यों हमारा नंबर ऑफ सीट्स बढ़ेंगे, जो कुछ भी है, तो डिलिमिटेशन के बाद आफ्टर द सेंसस, तो फ्यूचर पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स को भी ट्रेनिंग करने की काम जैसे सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज करते हैं, जो सतीश जी करते हैं, विनोद जी करते हैं, हमारा जितने इंस्टीट्यूशंस है, दलित बहुजन फ्रंट बात कर, तो ये फ्यूचर पॉलिटिकल लीडर्स को भी इतना हम ताकतवर बनाए, क्योंकि आज के दिन हर व्यक्ति पॉलिटिकल पार्टी के थ्रू ही इलेक्ट होके आता है। तो ये मुद्दा मैं यहाँ रोक देता हूँ कि सुभाजीत जी ने ये बात कही कि मैं आयोजकों से निवेदन करता हूँ कि राम कुमार जी, आपके वजह से इतना हिंदी बोलना पड़ रहा है, आयोजकों से कि निवेदन करता हूँ कि इस मुद्दे पे एक अलग से ये 75 साल वाला हमारा जो सीरीज है, इसमें टॉक रखें। जय भीम जी, धन्यवाद।
Yes. Okay. So, in fact, I will ask one more question and then we will leave it to this because I am actually holding your book. So, Ambedkar, Gandhi, and Patel, The Making of India's Electoral System, and it's a must-read book. Those of you are actually listening to this lecture, Sarah has written this book. It's published by Bloomsbury. In the year 2018. 17 it was published and then edition was published in 2018. This book has enlisted this whole struggle for political right, if I can call it that way. And in fact, if you read the last, uh, you know, uh, 6 chapters. These I keep on reading when I go to the class and teach Indian Constitution about that electoral ideas that has been inculcated, that how Constitution was making the electoral ideas. And in fact, Sir is writing a very important point in his book, and which is very fascinating. And I feel, I don't know, I want Sir's reaction on that later on. So here I saw that in one of the chapter he's talking about that double member constituencies, and in the double member constituencies, the proposals were actually revised by the government on the delimitation order, which is basically drawn up for each state and issued by the president in May 1951. But what we right now are seeing is basically a departure from there. Uh, and uh, and we are having only particular constituencies reserved rather than having that kind of thing. And in fact, there is a book which is written by Francesca Jensenius. He says that how the electoral quotas are inclusive, are actually contributing to the social justice through inclusion. There she makes a very interesting observation during her fieldwork. And this is the fieldwork done in Uttar Pradesh. And she travels with a MLA during the campaign. This is the SC reserved seat, sir, in Uttar Pradesh. And she keeps on asking him that, do you face caste-based discrimination in this kind of constituencies? Because these are mixed constituencies where there are upper caste, there are general caste and Brahmins and others, and of course there are scheduled castes. But the reserved constituency MLA would not, the Dalit MLA will not utter a single word. He says, no, no, madam, I'm not facing anything. But then Francisca went out and asked few of these upper caste households in the area, and they look at this Dalit MLA from a very different perspective, and which is very reductive perspective. And which is why, people should read Sekhar sir's book on this India's evolution of India's electoral system and making of it, that how the the system should have been the present electoral system should have been much more stronger, or should have been made as a much more stronger and resilient, which then basically transforms into the social and political aspirations, and Dalits also will get a true sense of emancipation through their political representatives in the reserved constituency. So in fact, sir, if you said a bit more light on this, that this entire way of delimiting and then the electoral system it is having, what probably can be done to strengthen it a bit further? Where, as you said in the response to the last question, where you said that we have to hold them also accountable, but can we also have a mechanism in place which would automatically or probably organically hold them accountable as well?
Are you asking me, sir?
Sir, now you can have a. I request Subhajit, you should leave to the floor. Your voice is not coming. Your voice is not coming.
Okay, should we give a chance to sir to respond to this question, or should we open the floor, sir?
Depend on the Rajshekhars.
If there are any more responses, if there is any more response, if there are no responses, also Dr. Santosh Raut will speak.
No.
Okay.
They will speak.
Okay.
Please raise hands whoever they want to
अरुण
ask
कोटे
question.
साहब ने ये कहा है, सुभजीत साहब ने कहा, उसके अलावा अरुण कोटे साहब ने ये कहा कि जो इलेक्शन होता है रिजर्व सीट में, उसमें जो मेजॉरिटी नॉन SC/ST होते हैं, हम असेंबली पार्लियामेंट के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं, जहां वार्ड बंदी होती है इन म्युनिसिपैलिटीज और पंचायत में, जहां वार्ड बंदी होती है, उनका जो डिलिमिटेशन होता है, जो शेड्यूल कास्ट और शेड्यूल कास्ट के जो सीट होते हैं, वहां केवल शेड्यूल कास्ट ही होते हैं. इट इज वर्चुअली लाइक सेपरेट इलेक्टोरेट. तो हमने जो अभी जो जिस दायरा से एंटायर पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन देख रहे हैं, हम उसको एक्सपैंड करने की जरूरत है. हम बार बार MLA और MP के बारे में बात करते हैं. हमें इसके ऊपर एक स्टडी का प्रोफेसर नरेंद्र ने भी बहुत अर्ली उन्होंने किया था कि जो पंचायतें और म्युनिसिपैलिटी हैं जहां वार्ड बंदी होती है, मान लीजिए एक वाल्मीकि बस्ती है किसी शहर में, उसमें अगर वार्ड बंदी होती है ना, वहां 99% वोटर शेड्यूल कास्ट ही होते हैं, तो दूसरे कम्युनिटी के नहीं होते. तो हमें ये भी देखना पड़ेगा कि जो लोग 100% या 95%, 70% शेड्यूल कास्ट कम्युनिटी का जो कॉन्सेंसी है, और उनको जीतने के लिए केवल और केवल उसी के कम्युनिटी का ना वोट चाहिए, उनकी बिहेवियर भी कैसी है, क्या वो भी अपना पॉलिटिकल प्रोग्राम से दबते? तो मैं इस क्वेश्चन को एक्चुअली ओपन कर रहा हूं. बट हमने भी ये देखा है कि जो कुछ मेंबर्स होते हैं वो खुल के बोलते भी है पार्टी के अंदर, वो हमें पार्टी में मीटिंग्स में बोलते हैं, बट हमें सुनने को नहीं मिलता, ना कहीं किसी अखबार में नहीं छपता. तो इसमें एक वेरिएशन है. एट द एंड ऑफ द डे मुझे ये लगता है कि उस किस्म की हम लीडरशिप, क्योंकि जो सुभजीत नास्कर को मैंने आज के दिन बोलूं कि रिजाइन करके MLA लड़ो, नहीं जाएंगे, ना मैं जाऊंगा, क्योंकि एक पर्टिकुलर तब के लोग ही पॉलिटिक्स में जाने का उनका अपॉर्चुनिटी मिलता है, हर व्यक्ति नहीं जाते. बट पॉलिटिक्स भी एक पॉलिटिकल पार्टी प्रोग्राम में बंद के रखते. इसके बारे में दोबारा मैं निवेदन करूंगा, जो 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 इट्स बी डिस्कशन है, हम एक अलग से इस पर डिस्कशन कर सकते. एनी अदर रेस्पॉन्सेज? आई विल रेस्पॉन्ड.
Yes, is there any question from the floor that we can take? कोई क्वेश्चन अगर आप पूछना चाहते हैं जो मीटिंग में हैं, तो हम लोग उसको ले सकते हैं।
क्वेश्चन पूछे ना पूछे, संतोष राउती बोलेंगे नहीं बोलेंगे? कहाँ है? बोलिए।
सर सर
Sir, I'm here, sir.
या
ये 0 डिग्री टेम्परेचर में बैठ के ठंड में बैठे हैं। बोलिए, हाउ आर यू? संतोष राउत जी हार्वर्ड में है आज के दिन, और वो थैंक यू फॉर अटेंडिंग।
No, sir, and congratulations for your book has been listed in Harvard class for political thoughts of Dr. Ambedkar. So, thank you very much for writing such an important book, sir.
धन्यवाद सर।
yeah, it's a must read book, of course, that it should.
नहीं, एनी अदर
Okay, sir.
रिस्पॉन्स आप पूछिए मॉडरेटर साहब।
सर
Sir, एक सवाल पूछना चाहता हूँ, सर।
या यस सर सर
मे बी हिंदी ज़्यादा आसान होगा। सर, ये पॉलिटिकल रिजर्वेशन से एक डेडलॉक हम एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं प्रोग्रेस ऑफ कम्युनिटी में इन टर्म्स ऑफ सोसाइटी राइट्स एंड देयर ओवरऑल एम्पावरमेंट, कि जिसको हम चुनना चाहते उसे चुन नहीं सकते, जिसको हम हराना चाहते उसे हम हरा नहीं सकते। तो मेजॉरिटेरियन पॉलिटिक्स में ये एक अजीब सा पैराडॉक्स हम एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं। तो आपकी किताब इस पे बहुत अच्छा लाइट थ्रो करती है सर, हिस्टोरिकल फैक्ट से। तो इसका क्या वे फॉरवर्ड हो सकता है सर, कि लाइक ऑल्सो अरुण खोटे सर सेड कि what will be the way forward where your energy go to in your community, because I think the political system, the way it's structured, it is bound to happen to produce chamcha yug, as Subhajit rightly said. Is there any safeguarding system? Can there be any way forward where there, of course, honesty cannot be imposed, is a virtue, but at least political honesty is bound to produce the at least expected result what Dr. Ambedkar expected.
सी हमें बार बार इस मुद्दे पे हम आ रहे हैं कि जहां आप कह रहे हैं कि इसकी वे फॉरवर्ड क्या है, कि ये पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेटिव को, कल हम ये मुद्दे भी देख सकते हैं जब विमेन रिजर्वेशन शुरू होगा, तो हम क्या ये सोचते हैं कि वो जो विमेन रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है केवल विमेन के लिए काम करेंगी? नहीं करेंगी। कि ऐसा भी हो सकता है कि कभी किसी विमेन के साथ कोई दुष्कर्म हुआ हो और जाके वो दूसरे पार्टी के साथ खड़े हो जाए, ऐसा भी हो सकता है। क्योंकि पॉलिटिकल रिप्रेजेंटेशन एक ऐसी एक चीज बन गई है कि जहां जो लोग चुन के आते हैं, कई बार नहीं, बहुत बार हमें आश्चर्यचकित कर देते कि उनकी उनकी झुकाव और वो पता नहीं किसी और तरीके से चले जाते। पॉलिटिक्स इज अ वेरी स्ट्रेंज थिंग। बट आपने एक चीज जो प्रश्न पूछा उसके लिए मैं ये कहना चाहता हूँ कि हम 75 साल एक पर्टिकुलर मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन में गए। वो इलेक्शन क्या है कि 10 बंदे, 100 वोट है, 10 लोग खड़े हैं, एक व्यक्ति को 11 है, बाकी व्यक्ति को 9 वोटें आए। जिस व्यक्ति को 11 वोट आए, इवन इफ इट इज रफली 11%, वो बंदा जीत गया। इसको बोलते हैं फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट सिस्टम। जो फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट सिस्टम, जो सिस्टम आज के दिन है, जो जिसको ज्यादा वोट आए वही जीत गया, वो सिस्टम है। आज के दिन हम 75 साल में भी उसी के लिए चल रहा है। तो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज क्या करते हैं, जो मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन है, क्योंकि मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन असेंबली पार्लियामेंट में अलग है, मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन राज्यसभा में अलग है। राज्यसभा में प्रेफरेंशियल वोटिंग है, 1 2 3 प्रेफरेंस लिखोगे, उसमें इतने रूल ये है कि भाई आप यहाँ दस्तखत करना पड़ेगा, वो बाहर निकल गया तो ना इनवैलिड, किसी को दिखाना पड़ेगा नहीं तो इनवैलिड, उल्टी सीधी इतने रूल है। क्योंकि जो मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन हमें कोई नहीं अपनाना पड़ेगा, अलग अलग से अपनाना पड़ेगा। मैं फ्रांस का एक उदाहरण देता हूँ। फ्रांस में जब तक उस इलेक्शन में जो जीतने वाले को 51% वोट नहीं आएंगे, 50+1 नहीं आएंगे, उसको इलेक्टेड नहीं। बड़ा क्लियर है। उसको फ्रांस को बोलते हैं 2 राउंड सिस्टम। पहली राउंड में किसी को 50+1 आ गया, वो जीत गया। नहीं आया, टॉप 2 को लेके दोबारा रिपोल करते। तो दुनिया में जो हमारा जो मॉडल ऑफ इलेक्शन है, क्योंकि इसी कारण की वजह से आप देखे होंगे कि बीएसपी जैसे पार्टी को उत्तर प्रदेश में एक बार 20% वोट मिला और एक सीट भी नहीं मिला। तो प्रोपोर्शनल रिप्रेजेंटेशन करके एक मॉडल है कई देशों में। इनफैक्ट कई देशों में यही मॉडल है, जिस पार्टी को जितना वोट मिले उतना सीट मिले। बट फिर पार्टी प्रोग्राम इतनी स्ट्रांग है देश में कि पार्टी को जो चापलूसी करेगा उन्हीं का तो नाम लिस्ट करेगा, क्योंकि पार्टी तय करती है कौन कौन जाएगा असेंबली पार्लियामेंट में। तो वो पीआर सिस्टम है, पार्टी को जितने वोट आते हैं इतने सीट। इसके एक बहुत ही बढ़िया उदाहरण देता हूं। पाकिस्तान में एक रूल है कि मान लीजिए 10% या 7% में याद नहीं है, कि इतना प्रतिशत पार्लियामेंट में विमेन होना चाहिए, विमेन पार्लियामेंटेरियन होना चाहिए। तो इलेक्शन कमीशन क्या करता है, नॉर्मली एक बार इलेक्शन कर देता है। करने के बाद मान लीजिए 100 में से 33 औरतें होना चाहिए, विमेन रिजर्वेशन होना चाहिए। मान लीजिए उस साल केवल 10 चुन के आए, तो पाकिस्तान का इलेक्शन कमीशन बोलता है भाई 10 चुन के आ गए, 23 बच गए। तो 23 को बोलता है कि जिस पार्टी को जितनी सीट मिले पार्लियामेंट में पाकिस्तान में, उतने की रेशियो में उनको अलॉट कर देते हैं। भाई आप पार्टी, आप 5 विमेन को नॉमिनेट करो, आप पार्टी 2 नॉमिनेट करो, आप 2 नॉमिनेट करो, आप एक नॉमिनेट करो। वहां पार्टी विमेन पार्लियामेंटेरियन को नॉमिनेट करता है, इलेक्ट नहीं होते पार्टी विमेन को। तो ऐसे ऐसे सिस्टम्स भी हैं कि मॉडल अलग अलग है, बट ये बड़ी बड़ी हास्यास्पद है कि पार्टी डिसाइड करेगा भाई कौन से औरतें उसमें जाना चाहिए। तो वो इलेक्ट होके तो आती नहीं, जो लेडी वहां आती है इलेक्ट होके तो नहीं आती, पार्टी के मेंबर होगी, कुछ भी होगी, वो भी अलग बात है। जिसके खिलाफ बाबा साहब अम्बेडकर ने गांधी के खिलाफ इतने लड़े इस नॉमिनेशन के सिस्टम। ये बातें तो 1930-31 के थे, पाकिस्तान अभी भी कर रहा है। बट बात यह है कि जो मॉडल्स दुनिया में आज के दिन अवेलेबल है, शायद हम उस मॉडल को आगे ले जाना पड़ेगा। बट फिर भी एक बात आती कि क्या आज के दिन जो पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज है वो तैयार है मॉडल बदलने का, तैयार है या नहीं? क्योंकि उनके आज के दिन जो मॉडल है हमारा है, मान लीजिए एक 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 पॉलिटिकल एक कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में एक समुदाय का ज्यादा वोट है, सब लोग 4-5 बंदे उसी समुदाय को लाएंगे, वोट करते हैं। हमारा आजकल वोट काटो इलेक्शन है, वोट जोड़ो इलेक्शन नहीं है। तो इलेक्टरल सिस्टम को हम बदल सकते क्या? कई लोगों ने कैंपेन भी किया, कई लोगों ने कैंपेन किया। तो आज की स्थिति, जब तक हम मॉडल को, नया मॉडल को लेके आएंगे, तब तक ये हम कर सकते हैं कि हमारा जो कोई भी रिप्रेजेंटेटिव है, मैंने ये भी देखा है SC/ST लोग जो है जिस कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी में उनका एमएलए, उनके पास जाते ही नहीं है, वो ढूंढ ढूंढ के शेड्यूल कास्ट एमएलए के पास जाते हैं। जो व्यक्ति आपके कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी जनरल कॉन्स्टिट्यूंसी का है, उस व्यक्ति को जाके प्रश्न कीजिए। ये सारा काम तो लक्ष्मैया साहब ने सेंटर फॉर दलित स्टडीज में बहुत ट्रेनिंग दिया लोगों को कि उसी से आप काम करवा के लाइए। अगर आपके मुद्दे हैं आप उसी से करवाइए, क्योंकि ये अलग अलग सिस्टम चलता है। ये मैंने देखा है, हर स्टेट में ऐसा हो सकता नहीं हो सकता है। तो जो प्रश्न, एक और प्रश्न बोली मेरा आनंद साहब ने उठाया कि राइट टू रिकॉल, हम 1-2 साल बाद हमको अगर वो एमएलए ठीक नहीं काम कर रहा है, हम बुला सकते हैं क्या उसको वापस? अगर फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट सिस्टम है, जो व्यक्ति जीतता है कि वो 30-20-30-35% से जीतता है, उसी दिन तो वो मेजॉरिटी के साथ नहीं है, मेजॉरिटी जिस दिन चाहे उसको वापस बुला ले। तो राइट टू रिकॉल फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट के साथ नहीं जा सकते, बट फिर भी राइट टू रिकॉल कैलिफोर्निया जैसे स्टेट्स में है, अमेरिका में, वहाँ राइट टू रिकॉल की प्रोविजन है, वो भी फर्स्ट पास द पोस्ट है। अमेरिका भी फर्स्ट पास जो मॉडल हमारा है उसी से चलते हैं। आई थिंक आई हैव आंसर्ड जी।
Yeah. Is there any other question that we can take from the
Otherwise,
floor?
we can wind up.
आंसर तो
और
वैसे सर आंसर तो दे दिया है सर ने में से, लेकिन मैं वही एक्सपीरियंस बताना चाह रहा था। जब बहन जी का उत्तर प्रदेश में फुल फ्लेश शासन था, उस शासन के दौरान दलितों पे जहां कहीं भी एट्रोसिटीज और उत्पीड़न होता था, थाने में एफआईआर लिखाने जाते थे, बहुजन समाज पार्टी के नेता पहुंच जाते थे सब वहां थाने में कि बहन जी को प्रधानमंत्री नहीं बनाना है क्या, इनको नाराज करना है क्या, इन वोटर्स को नाराज, वो अदर कास्ट को नाराज करना है। ये रेगुलर इस जो मौजूदा पॉलिटिक्स में इस तरीके का जो सिस्टम चलते कि आप अपने फंडामेंटल राइट को भी इम्प्लीमेंट नहीं कर सकते हैं इस इलेक्टोरल सिस्टम में। अगर आप अपने आदमी को ऊपर ले जाना चाहते हैं तो आपको किस हद तक, किस कास्ट तक, मतलब जो है उस जुर्म और उत्पीड़न सह करके उसे ले जाना है। ये जो है मैंने बहन जी के उस 5 ईयर के मतलब चुनाव के दौरान, वो शासन के दौरान देखा। और अल्टीमेटली हुआ ये कि बहन जी का तबका ही नाराज होकर के आउट बाहर हो गया। तो ये भी मैंने देखा, आपने उत्तर तो दे ही दिया है, लेकिन ये मैंने भी देखा मैंने कि आप अपने फंडामेंटल जो सदियों से उत्पीड़न रहा है उस उत्पीड़न को भी एक्सरसाइज न करिए, क्योंकि अपने आदमी को ऊपर उठाना है। और अपना आदमी अपने लिए कंसर्न भी नहीं है कि भाई अगर बहन जी शासन में है तो उम्मीद करते हैं कि भाई दलित सुरक्षित रहेगा। दलित ही सबसे ज्यादा इनसिक्योर है और बाकी जो अपर कास्ट वो सबसे ज्यादा सुरक्षित है। ये मैंने अपने उत्तर प्रदेश के अंदर देखा सर।
ट्रू सर।
बहुत ही सही बोले, बहुत ही अच्छा एक्सपीरियंस है राम कुमार। तो थैंक यू सुभाजीत जी।
I think Lakshmaya sir, should we wind up or quick last
Yes,
two?
yes. You
Now,
can wind up.
Anand Anna has raised a small question on box. It could be
Sir,
nice if we
I
can
think
respond.
already he answered.
right to recall, na?
No.
Right to recall.
Arun Kote.
No, not to my question. Anand has given us some points which needed to be addressed.
No, these are all various models, na? Right to recall is one of the models. Then he says, give 2 or 3 terms. That is wrong. It is undemocratic to contest and all. Everybody has a right to contest. So otherwise, see, various models only. Right to recall is one of the models. We can still have it. Haryana has implemented it in... Haryana has made a provision in the Panchayat Raj Act. You can recall the Sarpanch. 33% people signing and voting. You can recall the Sarpanch. So it's like that. So we can have a
Very
lot of
good.
models. Only idea is whether you represent or not.
No, you know that MC Raj has developed a model, this preferential electoral model. He improvised that as per the Indian situation. Unfortunately, his untimely death has been stopped that whole process of the electoral reforms. I think so. We have to look into that. Whatever he researched and he has documented a lot of things and he conducted a lot of studies.
Actually, we all know about that very nice campaign he did. So campaign for electoral reforms is always there. Maybe that is why Lakshmaya Saab has organized this series of lectures that we sit and look back after 75 years what to do. So maybe at the end of this series we will have a list of things to do. We can certainly. Thank you. That is how these issues have come up. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, Sekhar ji and Subhajit Naskar, Satish ji. I think for 4 lectures, all our elders and friends, they are attending the lectures. I am very thankful to them. This will continue up to November 26th, 2025. Already Rajshekhar ji had told. Then 75 lectures, we can plan it regularly. Next lecture will be former UGC chairperson, Professor Sukhdev Torarji. The topic will be announced within 2-3 days. I think another announcement is January 26th in Hyderabad. We have a celebration of 75 years. Please keep in your mind and come and join with us.
Very nice, sir. Very nice.
This is also how to discuss things, but you are there, that's why I am telling. I will also talk to Rajshekhar and all our friends. So how can we go about it? Anyway, this lecture series and this discussion, rightly Rajshekhar told, these lectures meant for not only to have a past things and what is the things happened. That is one thing. Second thing is how it impact on the people. That's the second thing. Third thing, how will we go about way forward? That is the two things we are in mind. The thanks to all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Subhajit.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Lakshmana, for organizing this.
Thank you, Anna.
Thank you and good night to all.
Thank you,
Thank
Santosh
you.
ji. Thank you very much from America. You are very great
Thank you.
fellow. Sir, you have to prepare some topic and tell us.
I will.
Sir, I asked first you, but you are busy in your things. Okay, anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for great organizing.
Thank you.